Excellent. You know, it has nothing to do with tacos.
Well, maybe Knock at the Cabin has something to do with tacos.
Maybe Knock on the Outhouse.
Knock
on the bathroom door.
That does happen.
Not with good tacos.
No, I'm trying to think of something.
Is this really our intro?
No, please, no.
No, we should have a much better intro. Well, here we are. 48 minutes of recording later.
Here we are again.
Here we are.
Back at it again. Back at the old grindstone.
Back at the old Shyamalan grindstone.
Nose to the grindstone.
Let me just tell you, so far,
yeah,
much better than Steven Seagal movies.
Oh, so much better. You see in my Letterboxd review, I said for the first 20 minutes, I was just enraptured by this movie.
Oh, this has pacing. This has
decent cinematography. It's got colors.
Talk about the cinematography.
They're making choices with the blocking, and
so I feel this does bring up something. I do feel bad because I honestly feel like I keep purely based on because of the format of this podcast. I keep being compare, there is no universe where it should be oh yeah, let me compare this M. Night Shyamalan film to the Steven Seagal film. The two have nothing to do with each other. It's not like they run in the same circles or anything.
Not at all.
It's not let me compare this Scorsese pick and this Francis Ford Coppola pick or whatever. M. Night Shyamalan doesn't deserve it. But while I'm watching this movie, just because I'm watching it with podcast mode, having my thoughts, that I am just thinking to myself,
what does Stanley Kubrick have to do with Tommy Wiseau?
Wow, that's so much better than how Seagal would do it.
Yes.
So we just need to evaluate these movies just on their own as movies. We can't compare them to Seagal.
As at recording time, we have not yet recorded. We haven't yet talked about our full wrap up where we talk about how watching 49 Steven Seagal movies over the course of almost 2 years has
hurt me.
Actually ruined our brains. And we will be talking about that soon.
So I'm not going to talk about it, but I don't think it's ruined me, but it has definitely changed me.
Oh, it's ruined me. It definitely ruined me.
But maybe it ruined me, and I'll discover that when we talk about it.
Oh no, it's definitely ruined you, Aaron. Don't lie. No, it's 100% ruined you. But I'm just saying, we can't imagine you're just oh, I want to check out this M. Night Shyamalan podcast. I really liked the Village. Let me listen to this, and then you boop boop boop. You go into your Apple Podcast or whatever. You open it up, and it's three dudes being yeah. So the Village. Let's compare that to Under Siege, and you're why are they talking about Steven Seagal so much? Someone's going to just want the thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan movies and being they've talked about Steven Seagal more than they've talked about M. Night Shyamalan. What's up with this? So we need to officially, this needs to be the last time we say his name in.
Please.
That's not going to happen.
I don't know if I can make that promise.
Yeah.
I'm making it happen.
I don't know.
Because I have to talk about my genuine thoughts when watching this movie. And my genuine thought when the movie started was, wow, the score is really good. I don't think I've ever heard music this good. And the title sequence is nice, and then the opening shot was this really nice close-up of a cricket. Yeah, I was oh.
Yeah, very fun opening. I love the opening.
This is so good.
So much better than a Seagal opening.
Nerve-wracking and uncomfortable.
I have something to say about the crickets, though.
Well, okay.
Grasshoppers.
So, what's
grasshoppers, yeah, you're right.
What's the intro?
What's the intro?
Much like a grasshopper. We're jumping back into this.
Is this gonna... Maybe this is gonna suck. Maybe this is gonna hurt your ears, but let's do a...
I can't hear that at all. That's lovely.
I don't know.
He's knocking at the cabin.
I did 7 knocks on the microphone.
So who else was bothered that this was called Knock at the Cabin and not Knock at the Cabin Door or...
Oh, I thought they should call it 7 knocks at the cabin because they knocked 7 times. Why'd they call this Knock at the Cabin? That's not just 1 knock. They should call this 7 knocks at the cabin. To be fair, it is based on a book called The Cabin at the End of the World, which I think is a better title.
Yeah.
The Cabin at the End of the World is a fantastic title. That's evocative.
Is that
so? This is our intro. Is
that
then?
Based on Restaurant at the End of the Universe, or is Restaurant at the End of the Universe based on Cabin at the End of the World?
Neither has anything to do with each other. It's just place at place, like
but
thing
it's
at place.
It's both building
the thing at the place. There is not the thing in the place cinematic universe, Aaron.
No, I'm not saying that they're in the same universe. I'm saying when Douglas Adams wrote Restaurant at the End of the Universe. Was he thinking
this book
of
came
this
out in
book?
2018.
Oh, well then no. I think it's the opposite.
But I don't think they named it after... I don't think it was named after the
Restaurant at the End
Douglas
of the
Adams
Universe,
book,
which is a hilarious book. It's great. It's a good book.
Probably, I think the best in the Hitchhiker series.
It's very good,
but I don't think that it was named after that.
Oh,
okay. I have knots. I don't know. Theme music.
We're packing hot dogs for the road.
This is exactly what the nerds want.
A friend got burned.
Maybe I'll just pull a Ruper Gr and I'll just like disappear 20 minutes into this.
I was so upset by that. I was so mad.
Seething. Well, it was funny watching this. I was just like, I have no idea what type of accent that man's going for. Oh, okay. He's going.
No, man, it doesn't matter.
British guy going for a gruff
Rupert Grint trying to do a Massachusetts
rural?
Boston. I don't even. Okay, well, he's okay. Time to
the vague idea of a British man's idea of a rural American.
Yeah, I don't know.
It wasn't horrible. I just couldn't.
I think
place
it's
it.
just Rupert Grint met Ben Affleck once and tried to just go based off of that.
So what happens in this movie, Zachary?
There's some we haven't done the theme music yet. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of M. Night Shyamalan, not a Steven Seagal podcast, and they're not related. We're not going to talk about Steven Seagal.
We're going to try really hard not to talk about Steven Seagal in this
That's
one.
going to be very
He's out
difficult.
the window. He's gone. New guy.
Out the window 14 times.
See, this is the problem. Nobody will understand that if they're just starting here. You have to take. You have to take the project in context of the project.
Yeah, to all of our new fans,
welcome to In Over Our Head presents M. Night Shyamalan presents Knock at the Cabin with your friends, Zach.
I'm Hans.
I'm Aaron. That was a reference back to season 1, early season 1 too. I'm sorry.
But we're going to have just a new influx, a ton of new listeners. All the Shyamalan heads are going to be here.
Yeah, season 2 is where we break 200 listeners a month. That's
season 2 is where we just go into the stratosphere. Hockey stick growth.
That is ambitious.
Nobody's ever talked about M. Night Shyamalan movies on a podcast before.
Oh, yeah.
So,
no, we're the first ones doing this.
Knock at the Cabin, or 7 Knocks at the Cabin. 2023 American apocalyptic psychological horror film, directed and produced and written by M. Night Shyamalan, based on the book The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul G. Tremblay.
A true auteur film.
Cinematography by Jaron Blaschke and Lowen E. Meyer. Edited by Noemi Katharina Prieswork.
Who all crushed it.
Music by Herdis Stefansdottir.
Who all crushed it. I love all of those things.
Distributed by Universal Pictures, starring Dave Bautista, Jonathan Groff, Ben Aldridge, Nikki Yamuka Bird, Kristen Cui, Abby Quinn, and Ruper Gr.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what are our thoughts? Or should I just start with the recap?
Well, I think we kind of asked this in the beginning episode of this season, but no one's seen this before, right? This is all our first time watching this. Okay.
Yep.
Did anybody read the book?
Nope.
No, I did, after watching the movie, look up a synopsis of the book to see how the plots are similar.
Okay, because I have some questions for you about the book then in that case.
Sure.
But I wrote in my Letterboxd review that I was divided about this. I gave it 3.5 stars to skip to the end of the episode. 3.5 stars. That's what I gave it. I was divided on it. I have some really nice things to say about it. I think there were areas where the movie did really, really well. And some things that I'm I don't know if I didn't like or if I'm just confused on. Or weirdly enough, now that you named all those people who did all these different things, I think the weakest part was the writing and just kind of the story structure, but that might come from the book. So I don't know if it's a faithful adaptation of the book or not. And if it is, I'm very sorry, but I didn't like the structure of the narrative very much. But I thought the cinematography, the editing, the music, that was all great. I loved that about it. But so it's a really mixed bag for me.
Hans.
I don't know.
Were you not prepared to watch a movie and talk about said movie?
You actually watched this one yesterday,
it's so much
10
more
minutes before
entertaining.
recording it.
It is so much more entertaining to sit back and talk about pure straight garbage that I had to basically inject into my veins.
Well, what would you say? You liked
this,
it? You loved it? You're mixed on it?
It's not what can I say? It was good. I liked it. It was fun. No, it wasn't actually fun at all. It was really stressful to watch.
It was
but it was a good
anxiety-inducing,
movie.
actually.
I don't know. I didn't maybe feel like there was as much depth in it as I was hoping for.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a pretty crappy criticism from one so depthless.
No, but I agree. I agree with that assessment. Yeah, that's how I felt. That is actually a better articulation of how I felt about it. There wasn't a lot of depth here.
It was good. It was interesting. I didn't necessarily have an issue with the writing, but the concept was pretty simple and laid out. They had a lot of sort of background storylines to give you a better idea of who the people are that have to choose which one of them they're going to kill. And I don't know. See, this is the problem. It's really difficult for me to talk about such just a solid middle of the road decent movie.
Well, okay. Well, let's
as far as like summaries go.
Yeah, we'll do a super quick summary.
What did you think?
So,
Zachary? What are your impressions?
Honestly, I'm pretty similar to y'all. Pretty close to Aaron. I feel like we're all kind of experiencing the same thing. Just the way I would phrase it is that this is one of those movies, like kind of like a concept forward movie where the movie's just like, hey, what if like this weird thing happened?
Yeah.
And I get that impression that a lot of these, Shyamalan films are just like, hey, what if a thing happened?
I would like to see a different execution of this same idea.
Right. So the thing is, I feel like if I'm going to like a movie or not, it's like, hey, what if this weird thing happened? Like, hey, what if this beach just like aged people? It's like, okay, but like, where do you take that concept? And here, when you say it lacks depth, it kind of just feels like this movie asks, what if a thing happened? And then you watch it and you're like, oh yeah, I guess that kind of is how
that's what would happen if that thing happened, huh?
Like if you're like you're walking along with friends and you start doing the, hey, would you rather this, would you rather this? And someone's just like, hey, what would happen if like, these people came up and like, they made you sacrifice one another.
It's an extended would you rather movie.
Yeah. We're just kind of just like, oh, I guess we'd like not want to do it until it gets to the very end and be like, okay, yeah, I guess we have to do this. Yeah, that's...
So what happens in the movie
basically what would happen.
to make all that we've been rambling about make sense?
So yeah, the long and short of it, you have 2 dads and a daughter. They love each other very much. They're just like a nice, perfect, happy little family. They spend like a good chunk of the dialogue in this movie is just talking about like how perfect they are for each other and how much they love each other. Like they really want you to know these people love each other.
Well, and that's all of the background, the sort of, I hesitate to say flashbacks, but that's they are flashbacks to like
quite
show
a few
you
flashbacks, more flashbacks than I thought there would be.
Yeah, how they got to be where they are and some of the trauma that they've had, and it's like just reinforces really well that they're like really super good people, just trying to live their life.
They just love each other. They go on vacation at a cabin. They should have called this movie Cabin in the Woods, because anyway, different movie.
I'm shaking my head.
They go to a cabin, hanging out, vacationing. Daughter's collecting grasshoppers. Dave Bautista walks up and he's like, hey, I'm being gentle, soft-spoken Dave Bautista, like my character from Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, there are like a couple 2049 references, I think. Dave Bautista's acting.
It was so validating. I watched this movie.
So many flashbacks to 2049.
I kept thinking about his character Sapper from Blade Runner 2049. Yeah. It was so validating when I watched the movie, and then afterwards I looked it up and it said Shyamalan was like interested in having him for this movie because from his performance in Blade Runner 2049.
I wasn't imagining things.
I think he hired him and was like, just kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of the same character.
Yeah. So Dave Bautista and his 3 friends show up. They knock at the cabin. There it is. Mm-hmm. They knock at the cabin. They say, hey, please let us in. The family says, no, we'd very much rather you don't come in. They break in, knock him out, tie him up, and say, one of you needs to willingly sacrifice yourself and be killed by another member of this family, or the whole world's going to end.
Yeah.
So that's the, hey, what if a thing happened? What if somebody showed up and said, one of you has to choose to die, and one of you has to kill the person you love the most, or the world's going to end? And they kind of go, no, we don't believe you. You're talking crazy. So then the rest of the movie is just trying to convince them that, hey, this is actually happening. Mm-hmm. So you have the 4 friends here. They, as the movie goes on, end up sacrificing themselves to the point where they all die as the apocalypse ramps up and gets worse and worse. So they go, sorry, Ruper Gr, you have to die 20 minutes into this movie.
And then you
see, okay, tsunamis are happening.
I actually love Ruper Gr. I am a big fan.
I know.
He was great in Wild Target. I love seeing him in any non-Harry Potter thing.
Like the first 20 minutes knock at the cabin. And then Abby Quinn's like, hey, I have to die. And then, okay, cool. There's like a big flu pandemic going on that's killing people. So along with each of the deaths of this cast willingly sacrificing themselves, not joyously, but like,
they're terrified
these visions
to do it.
Yeah, they hate it. That sucks. They really just don't want this to happen, but they've had these awful visions. The world's getting worse until literally planes are falling out of the sky, and Dave Bautista's like, okay, I gotta die now, but please go through with it for us. Pinky promise. Slits his throat. And then you get to the end, and Jonathan Groff basically says, hey, I love you so much, but like, you have to kill me. They do that, and they confirm, okay, cool, we have averted the apocalypse. Like, those people are not crazy. This was 100% true. Apocalypse was happening, and me killing him prevented it.
That's
the movie.
That's one of the reasons that I'm divided on the movie, is the ending.
So, you may be interested. The book, the first half of that, pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
When you read the synopsis of the book, it's like the exact same. What happens in the book, though, is at one point when they're fighting over the gun, they accidentally shoot the daughter.
Okay.
Oh.
That makes
so
more
she
sense.
accidentally dies, but then they say, hey, that doesn't count because she didn't sacrifice herself. One of you still has to sacrifice yourself.
Oh.
So the married couple, the two dads, just pretty much say, no, like, we don't want to, like, what kind of God would, we'd lose our daughter but wouldn't count it because it wasn't a sacrifice. Like, we're not doing it. And the book leaves it ambiguous. Like, they just say, we're not doing that. We're both going to live. And it doesn't tell you if they prevent the apocalypse.
See, I wanted it to be ambiguous, and it upset me that the movie was not ambiguous, that this really was the end of the world and they averted it. That bothered me a lot.
That's pretty much the big change, is that the movie just goes, yep, that 100% happened and they prevented it. And the book intentionally does not give you that resolution.
Yeah. How did we feel about the unambiguous ending? I didn't like that. That was actually a big downer for me.
That's where I felt that it kind of, when I say it, fell a little flat. I think that's why. Because I'm a very simple guy. I have a very simple brain. I like happy endings. I like a good wrap up at the end. But I recognize that might not be the best for the narrative that they're trying to tell. And I think in this case, much as I personally would have been frustrated that it was left ambiguous, I think it would have made for a better narrative that it was left ambiguous. I don't like that in the book they kill their daughter accidentally. That's awful. That would have been really, really terrible. I'm glad they didn't do that.
I'm glad we didn't see little Wen die.
Yeah, especially accidentally. But I guess it would have been worse if it was on purpose. But the whole thing, like, I do think it would have made for a stronger narrative if it was sort of left ambiguous.
I can remember a very specific moment where I'm like, oh, I was like, there was the specific moment that I was let down by like the plot itself.
Is it just when they watch all the news coverage that's just like, okay, world's fixed?
No, when they're watching all the news coverage, and the only way that they know that these terrible things are happening is watching it on TV. And so there's actually one of the main characters is like arguing throughout the whole movie that the only way we know this is that it's on TV. Like, you could have pre-recorded this. Yeah. Like, there are other explanations for this. And then after Jonathan Groff dies, he walks outside and you see an airplane fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
And like the lightning is like catching everything on fire.
Yeah, at that point I'm like, oh.
See stuff getting worse.
Okay, so they were telling the truth the whole time.
It's not even just that, like, did they prevent it, but it's real.
It's real.
The whole sort of kind of like psychological thriller aspect of it was like confirmed. Not what's the right word? Just over, I guess, at that moment.
It gave me less to think about at the end of the movie.
If they just said these people showed up and they could have been telling the truth, or they could have just been piping in closed circuit TV and like messing with them, like, that'd be harrowing. That would be
because there's this whole subplot with Ruper Grint's character is violently homophobic, and has attacked one of these men in the past, and so throughout the whole,
and they make a big deal.
About that. Like, so the whole movie, you're like, is this guy just coming back to? And Rupert Grint's character, not Rupert Grint, Rupert Grint's character was sent to prison for a while because of it. And is he just getting revenge on this guy?
Yeah, were they targeted? Were
they targeted? Is he just targeting this guy? And it's like,
that's not.
Could that be a motive? Do we have a motive? Do we have like means? What's going on here? And at the end of the movie, it's like, nope. Just completely random.
it's never confirmed or denied, and it's a really big subplot of the movie. And then as soon as you start seeing planes fall out of the sky at their cabin, it's like, okay, well, I guess
Like, okay.
No, he was telling the truth the whole time. Yeah, it had
that
nothing
whole
to
part
do
of it
with him
didn't
being
really make a difference, and it should have.
violently anti-gay.
It's kind of funny that like when we were talking last episode about like is there a Shyamalan twist or whatever, like this movie's the closest thing to Shyamalan twist is the people were actually being honest the whole time and everything they said was true and it is happening.
Yeah, I
the twist is like that.
that's
That's what I was waiting to ask. Was does this one have like it's?
I
We
don't
said this
think
last
it
time.
does. It has like an anti-twist.
No,
Yeah, we said this last.
it's just
time.
like
Going backwards.
they were right the whole time.
Going backwards is going to make it really difficult for us because like everybody knows that this is like the thing and it's in all of the movies, but none of us have seen any of the early movies, so answering this question makes us sound like a bunch of boneheads. But for this one, from our perspective of seeing these the way we've seen them and the amount of them that we have seen, does this one have a twist? And I say no. It's pretty simple.
Not at all, really.
Now, a different...
It's that thing they've been saying for the last hour is happening.
yeah. Like, it was actually exactly what everyone was saying.
Yep.
What the characters were saying is what you should believe. But, like, that was disappointing. I wanted a Shyamalan twist. Or I wanted it to be ambiguous. Like, just laying it out there and saying, oh, this was true, was to me less interesting. Because the question, what if the four horsemen of the apocalypse showed up at your cabin on vacation and gave you this dilemma? One of you has to kill the other or the whole world ends. Is a less interesting dilemma than all of that, but you don't know if they're telling the truth.
Right.
That's a much more interesting dilemma.
Right.
Like if the thought paradox is, for 100% certainty you have to kill someone or the world ends, it's kind of like, okay, it sucks, but yes, you have to kill someone.
No, I
if it's just four crazy
the
people
moral calculus
show up,
doesn't work out that way. But anyway.
It's a really
for most people, I think.
It's a really
but if like four people show up and they might just be crazy and lying, that completely changes.
Yeah.
Right. It's a really dramatic moment when they are literally like they've realized that this is happening. One of them has to kill the other, and they're trying to decide who it should be. They're trying to convince one another to kill them instead, and that kind of doesn't hit as hard when you actually see planes falling out of the sky and lightning striking the cabin that they're standing outside of. It's not. I don't know. Because there's also the one guy accidentally, while they were trying to fight off the four horsemen of the apocalypse, they were one of the guys, I can't remember which one, got pulled his leg out from under him with a cane and hit his head real hard when he fell on the floor and he got a concussion.
Got a concussion, yeah.
Yeah, he got a concussion. And throughout the movie, he's like sort of going back and forth between reality and potentially not reality. Like maybe he's seeing figures. Like he thought he saw something behind the people that brought that came there to give them this choice. And there's like this element of, is there maybe some kind of higher power behind all of this that actually makes this legitimate, that would lead you to believe that by the end of the movie, like they could still make that decision, even if there wasn't all of this evidence around them, because this guy might or might not have actually seen something real. But again, that falls flat when you see all of it happening around them at the end of the movie.
Yeah, there's the fire and brimstone. Okay.
Well, and to add to that, like Jonathan Groff's character, whose name I forget, he's just Jonathan Groff. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
It's either Eric or Andrew.
It's Eric and Andrew.
Which one.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Daddy Eric and Daddy Andrew.
But they make it pretty clear throughout these flashbacks that he used to be quite religious at some point. And so the other guy is worried that, okay, he had a concussion, he used to be really religious, maybe his religious ideas are just coming back to him. Yeah. And like that is in his background. And is he predisposed to believing these four people? And then the conclusion at the end of the movie is, but he was right, so it doesn't matter, I guess.
There's no,
which I will
ambiguous.
Say, we've kind of said the parts of this movie that we don't really like as much. I did appreciate when the movie chose to be subtle. Sometimes it wasn't. Like when the 4 people show up, I feel like I can intuit it on my own. Oh, they're like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. When they spend 5 minutes talking about how they are the 4, like how they're the 4 horsemen, I'm like, okay, I didn't need.
Well,
that.
they're the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but like the nice ones.
Yeah,
they're not like,
but not like more
they do just come out right and
they're
say
like
it.
caring and
lead guy mentorship.
Yeah.
But when it is subtle, like the one thing I appreciate is he doesn't just say, I grew up religious. Like there's a moment when they're sitting there in one of the flashbacks and non-Jonathan Groff, Ben Aldridge, I don't know, I can't remember which one's Eric and Andrew, but Ben Aldridge just says like,
I had to look at it.
Andrew. So Andrew just says like, you can pray right now. Like, that's fine. I won't like make a comment.
Yeah.
It's like when they're waiting to figure out if they're going to be able to adopt their daughter. And he's like, you can say a prayer now and I won't judge.
They're in a Christian orphanage in China and they see a picture of Jesus.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like that tells you everything you need to know. They're not like laying it on thick, like, you know. And so in that moment, you know, like, oh, he grew up as a believer. He presumably grew up not as a believer. Like, you can tell one of them will be more primed to accept this could be a religious like end of days than the other one is.
Yeah.
You learn so much from that one line. It does exactly what it needs to do. It's very efficient writing. I like that.
That was great.
That movie does a lot of neat little tricks.
Very
like
well
that.
written, well composed, made sense.
Now the one
and then
thing
it's just
that I
completely undercut at the end of the movie.
And they go, let me tell you how these are the 4 horsemen and everything they said is true and it is happening and you need to kill me. And I'm like, okay.
Okay, you know what though? Ain't that just a lot like some Seagal movies where they
nope. We're not
Shut
saying that man's name. We're not saying that man's name. Nope.
We've said this is so familiar.
Nope.
We've said it before. We've been through this.
Who? Who are we talking about?
I'm broken.
I don't know that man's name.
I think you're trying to be broken.
You're trying not to be. You're trying to ignore it.
Okay, you wanted to talk about the grasshoppers. One of you want to talk
I want to talk about the grasshoppers.
Yeah, what's up with the grasshoppers? Tell me about the grasshoppers.
So, throughout at the beginning of the movie, when Dave Bautista first comes up to Wen, who is outside on her own, and basically tries to convince her to trust him. He's not a stranger. He wants to become friends. She's catching grasshoppers to study them and has a little notebook where she names them all and is going to watch them and like observe their behavior and then let them go. That's her plan. And there's like this whole interaction between her and Dave Bautista where he also catches grasshoppers and helps put them in her little jar, whatever. And then when he says there are more people coming and they show up in the woods and Wen runs inside to find her dad's, she leaves the grasshoppers and they're still in their jar outside in the yard. Twice in the first day after they have been captured and been told like what's going on, they use shots outside panning down over this jar of grasshoppers as a transition between scenes. But they only do it 2 times. I thought it like, and maybe I'm thinking a little bit too deep into this, but I thought that they were going to use this as a sort of maybe sort of to relate to the 4 horsemen as they are individually sacrificed, that more grasshoppers left alone in this jar unattended are going to like die or something. And the only reason I thought about that was because I don't like it. Like I don't want to see that. That's kind of a bummer. But I thought that would have made sense. Like they just left this thing baking out in the sun with grasshoppers in it. Like they can't go anywhere. They're just stuck in this jar. So they pan over it twice, and then it is completely forgotten about and not brought up for the rest of the movie. And that kind of irritated me. I thought like that would have they had like 2 separate individual establishing shots over 2 days over which the movie took place. But they just dropped it after that. And I was kind of bummed out. As much as I didn't want to see a bunch of dead grasshoppers in a jar, because that's a bummer, I like that would have been that would have been additional effective transition scenes. And the latter half of this movie kind of moves really fast. Like just one thing happens after another, where the first half is kind of slow.
Well, because the first half takes place over the course of like a day and a half. And then the second half is like 40 minutes.
Right. And I think that they could have paced it a little bit better and they could have used the grasshoppers to help with that pacing. And I was kind of bummed that they didn't come back to it.
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons I'm kind of upset with this movie, and I'm not down on it, I still give it 3.5 stars. I think it's pretty good. I think it's worth seeing. It's interesting. But one of the reasons I think I'm kind of down on it is that it there are things about the movie that signify a depth that isn't here.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they set up cool visual motifs, like the jar of grasshoppers, which doesn't really go anywhere. Like, the little girl collecting grasshoppers and naming them after her classmates comes up multiple times in the movie, and then just kind of doesn't go anywhere. Like, that's never used as a symbol for anything. It's just a weird thing this girl does. Which I was okay with if it were going to be a symbol, but then it was just kind of wasted time in the movie. Like, it didn't mean anything in the movie.
I mean, it kind of is like how you have this very interesting premise, and then you just kind of go, oh, okay, I guess that's where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I feel like the grasshoppers come up, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, she's trapping them in the jar, so it's like how they're going to be trapped in this cabin, and then you assume it's going to go further, but then you're just like, okay, and then, yeah, I guess that's where it goes. Like, it just kind of feels like this movie presents concepts but doesn't always follow through on them.
But a movie that presents concepts and then doesn't follow through with them.
No.
What does it take to change a man?
No.
Zach, what does it take to change a man?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know what it takes to change a man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Definitely not.
Is this some Stanley Kubrick film? Is this... Are you talking about some Greta Gerwig film? Are you talking about Little Women? Is that a quote from like Barbie or Little Women?
It does.
I'm pretty sure I heard that in
Signs? In Signs, maybe?
Yeah.
That was in Mad Max Furiosa.
I was recently reading some Jane Austen novels. I think that might have been in there.
Yeah. Is that in a Game of Thrones book or something, Hans? I don't know what you're talking about.
You're trying to forget.
Is that from The Witcher?
Forget what? I don't forget anything.
You're trying to erase our past.
I don't know what you're talking
Which
about.
Lost character said that?
Yeah, is that a Lost thing, Hans? I don't know.
No. Lost followed up on every single plot point that they introduced, then they wrapped them all in a neat little bow perfectly, and you're never going to tell me otherwise. I
haven't even watched. I've watched the first 2 episodes.
But I think that is like, it comes up, and I think, you know, in a fairly subtle way, you're just like, oh, okay, I get how this kind of connects, and then, yeah, I would agree. It doesn't really fully develop. It doesn't get taken anywhere. You're like, are you bringing in some biblical imagery with the swarms of locusts?
Right.
Or like, are we going to see them, like, you know, how she is kind of the god of this world and what happens?
Did you know that grasshoppers are locusts? That becoming a locust is just a thing that happens to grasshoppers when they're placed under incredible stress, when there's not enough food to go around and there are too many grasshoppers in one place. They rub against each other and cause each other to become locusts, and then they move in a swarm to go find more food.
I did not know that.
Yeah, same.
That's disgusting.
Same creature. Could have been an interesting thing. Like, you watch their metamorphosis into locusts throughout the film. Never happens. That could have been cool. Yeah.
But it does make for a really cool opening sequence.
No, the opening sequence was awesome.
It really was. It gave me a lot.
But it made me mad by the end of the movie.
A weird, creepy, like, this is not my kind of movie. Like, this is not the kind of movie that I sit down and watch for enjoyment. But that opening scene gave me a lot of hope for, like, a really weird, creepy, like, something that sends shivers down your spine as you're watching it. And it did for a while, and then it didn't.
Yeah, the movie kind of starts strong and just kind of fizzles out. Like
I said in my Letterboxd review, the first, like, 20 minutes. I love the first 20 minutes of this movie. Yeah. I thought it was really artfully done. You have, like, the opening title sequence is a bunch of these notebooks that are apparently like drawings of the visions that the 4 horsemen are having. Never comes up. We never see those again. They only exist in the opening sequence. I think it's just like mood setting. It set the mood really well. It was creepy and nice. Agree.
It's vibes.
It was vibes. I was hoping it would be more than vibes. There are quite a few things in this movie that I think are just like to set the vibes, and I was really hoping that it would be more than that.
Yeah.
You know what does set the vibe, though? No, it actually doesn't. It has nothing to do with anything, but it's really, really great. Is M. Night Shyamalan's cameo in this movie?
Oh, it's awesome.
Okay, can we just say, though, fantastic.
It's so good.
Do you just like an infomercial host? Like, that's great.
They turn on the TV to like to switch it over to a news channel so that they can see what happened. They want to see the results of the coming apocalypse to prove to Eric and Andrew that this is actually happening. And when they first turn the TV on, it's M. Night Shyamalan. It was an air fryer, right?
Yeah, he was
presenting an infomercial for an air fryer.
It really struck me as just like M. Night Shyamalan loves his air fryer and wants to tell people about it. Like he seems genuinely interested in selling people on this air fryer.
But I'm watching. I'm like, no, this dude's right. Like, you ever like reheat pizza in the microwave? Disgusting. You ever reheat your pizza in an air fryer? So good. You should get one. If you don't have one, you should get one. M. Night Shyamalan, you're right.
Oh, and he said it was like fried chicken without the guilt or
Crisps
something.
it up,
His
no
line.
guilt. Same crispy taste, but no guilt or whatever. Yeah. Which, maybe when we talk about, maybe if you were to rewatch it, you could like dig deep into the 7 deadly sins. Like, maybe that's like gluttony and like, how the homophobic incident at the bar is like wrath, or you could
Where's
probably
avarice?
find
I don't see avarice.
I don't know
here.
where sloth or avarice.
There seem to be multiple examples of wrath.
Okay, well, Aaron, much like this movie, I think I can find like 2 or 3, and then I'm just gonna kind of drop it.
Yeah, they bring up an interesting idea.
I can find you like 3 or 4 of the 7 deadly sins in here, and then probably just give up on it.
Like the grasshoppers are in the title sequence, which made me think, oh, look for grasshoppers. Those will be important later. Nope.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
But what did we like?
What did I like?
Fantastic.
The music was great. The music was fantastic.
The music was great.
Cinematography. So actually, fun fact. I'm not as familiar with Lowell E. Meyer with any of their work, but Jaron Blaschke, who is credited as one of the cinematographers, he seems to be a frequent Robert Eggers collaborator. He did the Lighthouse. Have you seen The Lighthouse?
I've not seen The Lighthouse.
You should watch The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
He did the cinematography in The Lighthouse, which is, I think, one of like the best shot films I've ever seen. And I would say Knock at the Cabin is not quite operating at that extent, but like
it was good. It was really good.
Movie,
very solid.
When this movie is set 80% in like one room of a cabin,
not even the whole cabin, just like one room, like the living room.
You kind of think, wow, they're going to have to come up with some pretty creative ways of filming this, so it's not like samey and boring. And they do come up with some pretty creative ways of filming. They are constantly trying.
Not always the same camera angle, not always the same lighting.
I was never bored by the cinematography.
They do, like, they have intentional things where they shift the curtains around to make it look different.
Yes. Or like when they have kind of the over the shoulder view, like over Dave Bautista's shoulder, but they have it as 2 separate shots of Eric and Andrew, so you can see how they're separated.
It was great.
That opening shot of them like trying to open the door, that's like shot from like beneath. All of the Dutch angles, like every single time someone's morally conflicted, there's a Dutch angle.
It was good. It was
they
very
keep it fun.
Well
they keep it spicy.
Yeah, I thought
I did appreciate. Oh, go
no,
ahead.
I thought like even like the colors throughout the whole film were rich but not overpowering. It was a lot of natural colors, but it never felt samey. It was really, really great. And each of the 4 horsemen had like their own color, but I didn't notice it till like halfway through that each of the 4 horsemen was like kind of themed around a color, but not in an unrealistic way. Not like it wasn't 4 people showing up in 4 brightly colored jumpsuits. Like it just seemed like normal. I didn't even notice until maybe an hour into the movie that they're kind of like color themed too, which was nice.
So it's really natural.
Yeah, in a very natural way.
I did appreciate that, much like Shyamalan talking about how he went with 35mm film for Trap to give it like a certain feeling. I saw that for this one he shot it with camera lenses from the 1990s to give it kind of like an old school thriller look. I appreciate that. It had a very fun texture to the movie that's just pleasing to watch.
I love the way Dave Bautista put his glasses on.
Oh, Dave Bautista just in glasses, like amazing.
The way he put his glasses on in this movie, I was having flashbacks to 2049. Unfortunately, I think 2049 is a better movie.
yeah, a better Dave Bautista. Well, except 2049, I think better movie, better Dave Bautista performance, but like you only get Dave Bautista for the first like 50 minutes.
Yeah, underutilized Dave Bautista. More. This movie has an underutilized Ruper Gr.
Yeah. Like this one, Dave Bautista's carrying this. I loved it. His performance was fantastic. If I could just have another 2 hours of Dave Bautista being like soft-spoken, like elementary school teacher who needs to prevent the apocalypse, like, that was great.
Which makes me think, speaking of Ruper Gr in this movie, he does come back later in flashbacks. Yeah. Because he assaulted one of these guys in a bar.
Yeah.
But you see his face is like shadowed and he has a ball cap on and like a big beard.
That's when it's still ambiguous.
And so it's kind of ambiguous, but then the ambiguity is dissolved when they find his ID and it's the guy who was taken to court over this assault. So like there's like a pattern, a frustrating pattern in this movie of something being held as ambiguous and then revealed. That's not fun.
You wouldn't think it would be that frustrating, but it's like you're watching the movie and it just wants to answer every single question you have.
Yeah.
Like any question you could have, it's like, no, don't worry.
Because that could have been like, oh, he didn't bring his ID with him because he was on like a sacrificial murder adventure.
Like, what if you never found out if he was the one that did that?
Yeah, we'll never know.
It could be.
Nope.
But
nope. We found out definitively that is
answer.
definitely the guy who did that years ago.
Yeah, but he did that, but also, like, he wasn't here to follow up. He wasn't trying to get revenge.
Nope.
He just also genuinely seemed to be here to stop the apocalypse. That's just kind of a coincidence that this guy he gay bashed is also the one who needs to sacrifice himself.
Those two incidents had nothing to do with each other, actually.
Yeah, no, just crazy. Just crazy.
Weird cosmic
right? God works in
coincidence.
mysterious ways. Yeah.
Which cheapens it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely does.
One thing I did appreciate, this was definitely not played for laughs. This was not supposed to be funny. This was not meant to be funny, but something that was a bit funny to me is at the beginning when they show up and they lay out, hey, we're the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Like, you need to kill, sacrifice yourself to, like, save the world. And they make some comment. They're just like, basically, like, y'all are some religious fanatics targeting us, like, because, like, we're gay. It's just interesting because when Wen first says that she has 2 dads, you see this like look on like Dave Bautista's face, like a little bit of concern that it's not for laughs, but when they come in the cabin, when they explain that, when that happens, you can tell, like,
it was very funny.
The fact that Dave Bautista's reaction is just like, I get it, the optics on this, man, but like, trust me.
I know this looks really bad here in the 21st
He's just like,
century.
okay, I can see. Like, you can tell he's so upset by that. He's genuinely just like, I know that the optics on this aren't great, but like, trust me, it's not it's not a gay thing. Like, you just need to kill yourself to save the world. Like, it could have been anybody. Like, he's so apologetic. Like, he wants you to know, well, one of you has to die, but like, I don't want you to.
And then Ruper Gr's character cuts in and says, yeah, that was a surprise. Like,
but that's what makes it all the more like we've been saying this so much over and over and over again, how the ending falls flat because of all of this. But that's what makes it worse, because they have so much build up, so much in the beginning.
There's a lot of good stuff going on.
Like, that should have been left ambiguous. It shouldn't have been answered.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that is just an unfortunate coincidence. We didn't mean to do this to a poor, loving, homosexual couple who love each other. Like, I'm sorry, it's random. I don't know.
It stops being a psychological thriller when it's like the psychological thrilling part of it is not there. It's answered, done, over. You have a reprieve, and then the movie ends.
Yeah. So Hans, do you know what your Aaron and I are both 3.5 stars. I don't know if I actually said that at the beginning, but mine was very similar. Like, that was pretty good, interesting premise.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I would like to see somebody else adapt the same book, actually.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting.
But where are you at, Hans?
I'd say a solid 3 stars.
Okay.
3 stars?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. 3 stars, liked it. Like, it wasn't. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, because, like I said, this is not typically my kind of movie, but it was enjoyable, if not a little bit frustrating. But that doesn't mean that I didn't like it.
Yeah, no, I think all the other stuff about the movie. So this is what I'll say. I think I kind of said this at the beginning of this episode, but all the specifically M. Night Shyamalan stuff I didn't like, but everything else about the movie I enjoyed. Like, I thought the music, the cinematography, the acting, like, that was all great. The costumes, the sets, everything was great, except the changes that Shyamalan made to the plot, I don't think worked and kind of cheapened the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I would have given it at least 4 stars if it were left ambiguous at the end. But for some reason, he decided to make it unambiguous, which cheapened it for me.
Yeah.
It is pretty wild, though, that compared to the book, this is like the happier ending, but the happy ending is still like this man has to kill the man that he loves most in this entire world.
Yeah,
like,
right, but it shouldn't.
It's not a happy ending, but it is weirdly the happy.
This
ending.
story shouldn't have had a happy ending. Like, that's the problem.
Shouldn't have had a real ending.
Yeah. Anyway, we've talked that to death.
Yeah.
I didn't pull a line from this. Should I have pulled a line? Are we doing lines? The problem is there aren't, like, the whole pulling a line thing worked with Seagal because there was trash, and trash is funny.
It worked with Quentin Tarantino. Yeah, Quentin Tarantino has some lines.
It worked in season 1.
I'd make that deal, Udovich. You make that deal, Udovich. That's a damn good deal. Hell of a deal.
It worked in season 1
Tarantino line.
Because pulling trash is funny.
Yeah.
But there isn't trash in this. there's just a lot of good dialogue. So I really don't know that I can pull a line to say that it's my favorite line. I think my favorite scene, if we want to do scenes, is absolutely M. Night Shyamalan in an infomercial talking about an air fryer.
No, it's very sad that is like the most joy I got out of this movie. I thought it was really funny. I love the Shyamalan interjections so far. I love his cameos in these two movies so far. In Trap, it really worked because Trap is almost a horror comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Knock at the Cabin felt like it was supposed to be anxiety inducing, and I just keep getting things throughout the movie that deaden that take me out of it. And one of it was seeing Shyamalan say crispy chicken without the guilt. Like that. If I had no idea who Shyamalan was, if I didn't know he existed, I'd never seen his face before, I'd be like, well, that's kind of a silly thing to have on the background and then forget about it. But I do know. I feel like I'm being punished for knowing more, which is weird.
They'd also have Strawberry Shortcake, like an animated cartoon series, like on in the background at one point.
Yes.
And I was like actually like very distracted, like very focused on that. Like during that whole scene when they're laying out like how the apocalypse is going to happen, I'm just like watching like the kids TV show in the background.
Yeah, they're just like, I mean, I've said it a million times so far this episode, but they're just like a few little decisions that cheapen the cool idea here, and it bothers me.
Would you believe me that Shyamalan said that the script was the fastest he had ever written in his career?
Yeah, I believe
because this is a scenario. Like, it's not a plot. It's like,
and because he could just
an adaptation
Control
of a
C,
book.
Control V the book,
Yeah.
and then just go, but let's not make the ending ambiguous. Like,
this is a presentation to the audience. Hey, what if this happened? Here's what happens if this happened.
it would be so fun as Shyamalan keeps going. Eventually, he just, as he gets older, I'm not saying he's going to get lazy, but it would be pretty funny if over time, like, he got lazier and it was just like you go to the movie and it's just the movie is just him sitting in front of a chair being like, hey, what if this happened? That'd be pretty weird, huh? That'd be pretty wild, huh?
You're spitting out a Family Guy bit right now.
Like, hey, for my next movie, what if like you either like every time you farted it sounded like a tuba, or every time you sneezed it sounded like, you know, a glockenspiel?
Wait, no, this is a Family
crazy,
Guy
huh?
bit. They do that
Is
with
it?
Stephen King. Like, your book ideas are getting lazier and lazier, just like Stephen King, and it goes a flashback to him and his publisher saying, and in this one, the hero is chased by a lamp monster.
Pretty crazy.
Grabs a lamp off the producer's or his editor's desk.
But I just want to see Shyamalan just be like, hey, what if this weird thing happened? Huh? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Pretty weird, right? Pretty crazy. What would you do?
So then here's a different question I want to ask as we're going backwards
Yeah.
through Shyamalan's career then. To bring
Yeah.
it back to like the wider oeuvre, discovering the oeuvre of M. Night Shyamalan. Do you think that opinion will change as we go earlier in his career? Will we find a more earnest Shyamalan, or will we find a more inexperienced Shyamalan?
I think The Beach That Makes You Old is going to feel the same way, but I'm kind of hoping maybe like our next movie, let me double check. I want to say our next movie is The Beach That Makes You Old.
That's
Like,
not
what
what the
if you
movie's called.
It's called.
Oh, sorry, it's called Old. It's called the last word of that thing I just said. Yeah, no, next we see
Up in
Old.
the top corner in parentheses, it's The Beach That Makes You. And then
Yes.
in the middle of the poster, it's Old.
Well, because Old is horrible for SEO. You're like, oh, would you watch Old? Huh? I watched the movie about the beach that makes you old. Oh, okay. I know. Yeah. But again, I feel like that's just going to be, hey, what if you went to a beach, but like it made you old?
Huh? Is that a thing?
Pretty crazy, right?
Is that
Yeah. Pretty wild, huh?
anything?
Yeah.
No?
But I don't know. Maybe after that, I don't think that. I think we're going to see a bit more like some more like wild swings as we go.
Yeah, I hope so.
The thing is, I don't think, like you say, are we going to see a less experienced or a less lazy? I don't think that's the case at all. Like, obviously, maybe less experienced, but I don't think that'll necessarily show through. And it's definitely not laziness. Like, you can't say that the guy didn't work. Like, just because the script was adapted from a book and it was just like a scenario,
No.
and it didn't take
Oh,
very
no,
long.
no,
to
no,
write.
no, no. That's
It's
why
that.
I want to be very clear. I was not saying he was lazy. I was saying I kind of want to see the future where he
Yeah.
becomes lazy and just goes, hey, concept. Weird, right?
Right. Okay. I got
But
you.
I want to be very clear. I don't think these movies are becoming
No.
lazy. But I would be interested in seeing them. Like, I don't want everyone to be, hey, what about concept? Like, I'm kind of interested just to see like some wild swings, like an interesting movie that's not as concept driven.
I definitely think Trap was a step up from this.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
I think Trap was fantastic.
I just can't wait to get to the Shyamalan twist, because we started this project off wrong to try to identify it.
Well, yeah. I guess, what does this movie say about does this movie say anything about the Shyamalan twist? And if it does, what does it say?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I mean, honestly, the one thing I would not be surprised if this movie was at least somewhat made in the context of the audience anticipating a Shyamalan twist, because it's like, hey, you kept waiting for a twist. Psych, JK.
Yeah.
Like, if you were watching this movie thinking there's going to be a twist, yeah. It kind of is a twist that the movie just goes, nope. The thing we laid out happened.
The last 5 minutes of the movie is just laying out how truthful the Four Horsemen were. Hey, they were telling the truth the entire time.
News coverage of all over the world.
We're just going to go on a road trip confirming everything they told us.
Yeah. The sequel to this movie is just like, oh boy, it sure was a shame when that plane crashed, but I'm glad things are better now.
Yeah. So then, I guess, and now I'm wondering, was Trap a better execution of the anti-Shyamalan twist?
Yes.
Yeah.
If that's even what's going on here, right? So first we would have to ask the question, is there an intentional anti-twist in here? And I don't know if it's intentional, but I feel like there could be an unconscious anti-twist in this movie. And I think in Trap, it's almost conscious, like an anti-twist. And I think it's better executed there.
I think it's better at this thing that we completely made up that probably isn't happening outside of our imagination. Yeah. This fictional criteria.
But just wouldn't it be cool if Shyamalan made a movie with an anti-twist?
Yeah.
That's my idea for a movie, is Shyamalan making a movie with an anti-twist.
Do we think that's going to happen in Old?
Oh, I don't know.
Hey, the beach turns people old, and that's it. There you go. End of movie. I now that we've talked about it, I gotta be honest. I'm really stoked to watch Old. I need to know what happens at the beach that turns you old. I can't wait to watch Old.
So a long time ago, we were setting up Plex, and I saw in like Plex recommendations, I was just getting used to Plex as a service, and I saw in there like recent movies or recommended movies or whatever, and it was just Old, and it was like I didn't quite get it. I opened it up and I looked at it, and I was like, huh, that's weird. And I asked Zach, like, what is this movie? Like, this just came out, and this seems so odd. And Zach goes, yep, that's it. That's the whole thing.
Turns you old.
It's the beach that turns you old. Like, you're not missing anything.
Well, so
just a little confused. So I'm very excited to watch Old. I don't really know what to expect.
Well, because one thing I wanted to mention very briefly in this episode is like my expectations going into this movie were formed entirely by one trailer I half remember from several years ago. And I thought the trailer was incredibly vague. I didn't understand anything about what this movie was supposed to be from the trailer. I knew Ruper Gr and Dave Bautista and Jonathan Groff were in it, and I like all of them. So I thought, hey, maybe I'll watch that sometime, and then just kind of forgot it existed. And then the reviews weren't amazing, so I never went and saw it. But everything I knew about this movie came from the trailer, which told me nothing about what this movie was supposed to be. So
that's good.
That.
I like trailers.
So
like
maybe
that.
Old is a complex narrative about senescence, but I wouldn't know because the trailers definitely just tell you beach that makes you old. That's pretty much.
I was an AMC Stubs A-list subscriber in the year 2023, so I saw the trailer for Knock at the Cabin like probably about 400 times. I have not seen I don't think I've seen the trailer for Old. I just know it's the beach that makes you old.
Mm-hmm. I remember watching a trailer for Old, and it pretty much just told me it's the beach that makes you old.
Hell yeah, let's go. I'm so
But
ready.
then
I'm so
the Knock at the Cabin trailer pretty much just told me that some people knock at a cabin and maybe they're like murderers or something. It's very ambiguous in the trailer. I couldn't tell what was going on.
Yeah. Trap trailer got me excited.
Trap trailer did get me excited. That was interesting. But also, I think that was ambiguous too. I don't think it told me a whole lot.
You just know, oh, he's a serial killer. Well, this whole concert's a trap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it was so much ambiguous
very high
that
concept.
one as it did just not reveal anything beyond the first 20 minutes, which is good, which is still good. But it definitely wasn't ambiguous. It was pretty upfront.
Well, then I guess it was very high concept.
Yeah, definitely.
It just told you like the hey, what if this happened idea of the movie.
And I think that's what all these trailers should show.
Oh, probably. Yeah. So is this a Sham all win or a Shame all in?
Shyamalan. Oh yeah, that's what we're going with, I guess.
This is a Sham all mid.
Shyamalan. Yeah, like it's fine.
It's fine.
I don't want to say that it wasn't good, because it was.
It's fine.
Like, this was a good movie, and I said I liked it. Solid 3 stars, very middle of the road.
Watched again,
but yeah, I don't think that it was. I don't think that it was bad. I also don't think that it was great. It was very middle of the road.
Yeah, it's a movie. It exists.
I mean, if someone says, "Hey, let's watch a Shyamalan movie," which of the two that you've seen would you rather watch? Be like, Trap, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, we're watching Trap. That's what we're gonna watch.
This just feels like when you watch Tim Rogers and his series of like the Action Button reviews, where he started off reviewing, like, the first episode he does is like the Final Fantasy VII remake. So he's like, now this is like at the top of the list of, like, you know, of all these things I've reviewed in this series, this is like my favorite. And then, like, he reviews a second one and it's a second favorite. Then, like, on his third video, it's like his third favorite. Like, it's because it's the first one he watches, he's like, oh yeah, this is at the top of the list. But then as the list goes longer, it just like keeps going down on the bottom of the list. Like, I just feel like it's gonna be like, out of the 2 movies we've watched, Knock at the Cabin is my second favorite. Out of the 3 movies we've watched, probably my third favorite. Yeah, probably behind Trap and Old.
Yeah,
that's not gonna stay true forever.
No, once we get to
some Last Airbender is gonna come along,
that's
and take
gonna
that spot,
go right at the bottom.
Right at the bottom, trust me.
That is one of the few Shyamalan movies I have seen, and I hate it. I hate it so much.
But for the movies we've officially watched as a part of M. Night Shyamalan,
this is true. Of the movies we've officially
second
watched
place.
as part of this project, Trap is definitely my favorite.
Yeah,
we'll see how long it stays at the top of our list.
Yeah, it could be a top 5. Who knows?
Who knows?
Well, I don't know. Any other thoughts?
I mean, the correct moral calculus is don't kill innocent people. So,
yeah.
I wouldn't kill anybody in that situation.
So, Aaron, you were literally just...
What?
You're literally just doing the meme that people do online. If it were me in that situation, I would just simply not do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're watching like a movie with like bad things happening to bad characters, you're like, if it was me, I just would not have done that thing.
Yeah.
If I was like trapped in a cabin and they made me kill myself, I just would simply not.
I would simply not.
Yeah. Well, okay. Great. Fantastic.
That's what the movie invites you to do, is to think about it.
It invites you to do that for about 45 minutes, and then it kind of stops
doing that.
It kind of takes that invite back. It's like, actually, you know what? I have some plans later.
Mm-hmm. But anyway.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Good. I kind of like the movie. Like, we just started off strong and just kind of...
talk for an hour about how it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is how we would feel about a movie like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a similar feeling, isn't it? Don't you feel like you felt that before?
No.
Don't you feel like you felt that
this
feeling
is novel.
before? Of how it just kind of peters off at the end, and we're like, yeah, that's all we got.
So...
You like hot dogs, right?
You know what? No, I have had this feeling before. Every time I eat a Klondike bar. First 2 bites, lovely. I'm digging it. And I get to the end, I'm like, this is the ice cream to chocolate ratio is way off here.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever actually enjoyed 100% of a Klondike bar now that you mention it.
The first 2 corners, I'm like, yeah, this is good.
Oh, perfect. Peak.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I love Klondike bars.
I like them. I really enjoy them, but then you get to the end and you're like, okay, this is fine.
Just kind of need to finish it because it's getting melty now. And
yeah.
I don't think I've ever had that problem.
I don't know what to tell you, Hans.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to tell you. You're the one with the problem.
But this movie is not like whatever you were talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you were talking about.
This doesn't feel similar at all?
No.
How we're ending this episode?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know that name. I don't know. I've never met him.
I'm pretty sure Ruper Gr helped defeat He Who Shall Not Be Named.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess it is kind of like Harry Potter, The Deathly Hallows Part 1, where you just kind of watch, like, there's that opening in, like, you know, bank heist. It opens with the escape, like, you know, the 7 Potter, the 7 Harrys or whatever, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's just kind of a movie that happened. They're mostly just camping for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the movie you're talking about. You're talking about the Harry Potter movie, right, Hans?
And then there's like sexual tension between Harry and Hermione that goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Like the Locusts.
And Rupert Gr also just fucks off for most of that movie. Yeah, Knock at the Cabin is like the Deathly Hallows Part 1 of movies.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just asking for more Rupert Grint throughout most of it.
You're just every time Rupert Grint is not on screen, the audience should be asking, "Where's Rupert Grint?
Yeah,
give me my Grint. I'm a Grint head."
All right, I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay.
Okay.